It's always happening, and we always have to fight against it. The idea of saying that freedom is important is a frivolous notion. You have to understand what you get when you don't have freedom. Once people have control of you, they do bad things. Just a psychological state of people that have absolute control over you, and then they want to tell you what to do. You know, there's some people that are bad parents. They're like, just shut up and go to your rooms. They don't want to deal with it anymore. That's some parents, right? It's also some governments. And they treat people as if they have to listen and they know better than you, and you're just going to have to get used to doing this because this is how we do things. Like, hey, no, you. You're just a person. You shouldn't be telling all these other people who disagree how they have to live their life. How can you do that? The only way. You have to have ultimate power. You have to be the only one who's armed. You have to be the only one who gets to say. You have to be stuck in this weird situation where you can change laws and change rules because there's an emergency. Get away all sorts of protections that people have had in the past, and then you never get it done.
And I wonder why there's such a coordinated effort by very powerful forces trying to cancel Joe Rogan. Wonder why. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski here of WeAreChange.org, and we have a lot of absolutely crazy news to get into, especially internationally, not just in Ukraine, but also Canada, where it seems like some politicians have gone absolutely berserk. We're, of course, going to be talking about that, as well as all the latest information surrounding Joe Rogan and the larger cultural war happening right now, as, of course, the video that we played in the beginning of this broadcast is by Samuel Rivera. The link to the full video and his YouTube channel will, of course, be down in the description below. And he does absolutely incredible compilation videos of not just Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was just one of the people, but truly, this independent content creator is awesome. I really appreciate his work. I think you will too, and that's why I decided to play one of his video in the beginning of today's broadcast. And we definitely need more people out there like him. That highlights the significance of individuals like Joe Rogan, as of course he represents almost the exact opposite of what the corporate media represents, as of course by and large the corporate mainstream media has been acting like PR representatives for the ruling elites, essentially calling for the destruction of people's civil liberties, human rights, all in the name of giving power to government despots that don't follow their own punishing rules and decrees that they put on small children, just like the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, that has implemented a decree that's being enforced by police officers in his state, forcing young children to wear masks, all for their alleged safety, as of course he's pictured at major sporting gatherings not wearing a face mask himself. The corporate media, like the Times of London, has literally been calling for, quote, Big Brother state surveillance, including a social credit score ID card system, which is an absolutely ridiculous idea that many times has been countered by either Joe Rogan or some of the guests that appear on his podcast that has been gaining absolutely incredible popularity, with tens of millions of people tuning in to almost every single broadcast. This, as of course Joe Rogan's popularity and trust amongst the American people has been growing, because he's not pushing an agenda. He's not telling you what to do. He's having open and honest conversations, which is the complete opposite of what many people allege Dr. Fauci was doing, who of course overwhelmingly failed as a bureaucrat, lied on the record, and used a tragedy for his own political gain. As of course poll numbers show that only 31% of Americans trust Dr. Fauci, and of course the system is dealing with the failure of confidence, mainly because of how horrible they have been to the American public. Who's responsible for this? Well, obviously the people calling them out on their failed policies that clearly didn't work. The people calling them out on their conflict of interest, on their larger politicization of this tragedy for their own personal benefit and their friends' benefits. Those are the people who are responsible, not the failed bureaucrats here. And I think, according to my own personal perspective, because more people trust Joe Rogan than they do Anthony Fauci, this is why there has been a concerted effort to try to take him down, as perfectly expressed by Glenn Greenwald's latest Substack that is entitled, quote, The Pressure Campaign on Spotify to Remove Joe Rogan Reveals the Religion of Liberals, quote, censorship, saying specifically silencing their adversaries has become their primary project, and they have utilized many tools in order to try to, of course, smear, attack, and bring down Joe Rogan, including just outright lying about him like CBS Morning was doing just a few hours ago, as they were implying that he's somehow responsible for killing people and that his platform is somehow dangerous. Yeah, critical thinking, evaluating evidence, hearing two sides of the story is not dangerous. Historically, censoring and removing speech is, especially with governments that become too big for their own good and they rule by decrees. And this full-on assault against Joe Rogan is not only done in the corporate media, it's also done by alleged blue blood inbred royalty, as we're hearing reports that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are, quote, putting pressure on Spotify to drop Joe Rogan as they, quote, express their concerns for misinformation. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be trusting British royalty and out-of-touch millionaires who have huge conflict of interests, whose families are tied to some of the most horrible, sinister human beings on the face of this earth, whether they be Eurus Deming, Jimmy Savile, Edward Heath, or Mr. Epstein. I'm sorry, but unless you address those skeletons in your closet, your opinion to me is kind of worthless. And we also have to understand that this larger pressure campaign from many extremely old rock stars is also very questionable. This, of course, started with Neil Young, whose music is partly owned with people who, of course, have an invested interest and, of course, are profiting from the greater lie told to the general public that Joe Rogan has been exposing. As, of course, Neil Young has sold publishing rights to his music to companies connected to Blackstone, individuals who had previous connections with Pfizer, and obviously you could see an invested interest here. Neil Young, whether he's making these decisions for himself or not, has also announced that he's moving to Amazon, billionaire Jeff Bezos' company, and I think it's fair to ask here, how much of a coordinated corporate effort is this? As, of course, clearly this is a coordinated attack on Spotify that has decided to respond and say officially that they will not be censoring any information, but they do have rules now implementing a new rule to, quote, add a content advisory to podcasts that discuss the global sickness. Now, was it Prince Harry and Meghan Markle that spurred them to respond? Was this a response because of all of the pressure or just theirs? Who knows? But I think it's fair to say here that this is absolutely going to do nothing except for try to placate some of the haters here by promoting a CDC website. Now, Joe Rogan himself finally decided to speak out about this entire controversy. He released an over 9-minute video on his Instagram page explaining that the doctors he talked to in an interview do have credible credentials, that what they say have merit, and that their voice deserves to be heard. He explained how their opinions are valuable, but they're counter to, of course, the corporate media narrative, which Joe Rogan also explained keeps changing, specifically talking about how many things that were considered misinformation a few days ago are now considered fact. And then he goes up and brings up multiple examples, and as we know, there's a lot of them. Now, there's some mixed responses to this Instagram video by Joe Rogan. Some people are saying that you can see through the video that Joe Rogan is under tremendous amounts of pressure and stress, and that him agreeing with this new Spotify content advisory label is something that, of course, is unwarranted. And there's an aspect of this that I agree with here. Joe Rogan, in my opinion, did nothing wrong. And, of course, there's other people responding to this video saying that this was a perfect response and was a major gut to, of course, the corporate mainstream media. And it's important to note here that this video is being very well received, especially on Instagram, by many celebrities, including even Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, along with many other celebrities that are openly and clearly supporting Joe Rogan with this particular statement. And overwhelmingly, there is a lot of support here for Joe Rogan. The video has garnered nearly 5 million views within just 15 hours of being published. And let's be honest here, millions of people are hearing how the corporate media has got it wrong routinely, and how having an open, real, honest discussion about this issues is absolutely important, because if no one questioned the corporate media when they were wrong the first time, Why should we stop questioning now? And I think the market is also responding favorably to Spotify as their stock has gone up today. And even with mainline celebrities coming out and supporting everything that's being done here, even other companies like Substack coming out and making a very strong stance against censorship, officially declaring today that they will not be making any moderation decision based on public pressure or PR considerations, is a win-win. And I think this is a major shifting of the tide towards a direction that is absolutely incredible and absolutely worth noting. Now, I do have a lot more to say about this issue specifically, as well as the number of times that the corporate media has got it wrong, and I will be talking about all of those issues, plus a lot more later on today on LukeUncensored.com, our own platform where we get to say and do whatever we want. If you haven't joined yet, what are you waiting for? The link is down in the description below. We have 3 masterclasses free available for members, whether you're interested in learning about journalism, apocalypse survival, expatting, traveling. We have those masterclasses available for you, all for members, as well as new content almost every single day, specifically with all the spicy things that we cannot talk about here on this platform, including this latest Reuters article that proves yet again another major lie by the corporate media establishment that is being corrected even by mainline institutions like Reuters. What's that fact? We can't even mention it here, but there's a major bombshell in the official narrative that is absolutely obliterating it. I think times are changing. They're going towards a good direction, and holy crap, it's an exciting time to be alive, especially with all the news coming out of Canada. I'm just going to have to continue on talking about some other news stories because it's impossible not to mention about the latest nonsense being regurgitated by the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, that is now falsely claiming that the trucker protests in Ottawa allegedly stole food from the homeless. He's accusing them of quote, hateful rhetoric and violence towards citizens. And no, he's not speaking about Black Lives Matter protests. He's specifically talking about the overwhelmingly peaceful trucker demonstration that just happened a few hours ago. We talked about it exclusively on our latest YouTube video yesterday. If you haven't watched that video, what are you waiting for? But this larger trucker movement has built a mass mobilization, not just in Canada, but also in the Netherlands. Also, we're hearing in Australia, a lot of people being motivated and starting their own trucker convoys, an idea that is being vehemently attacked by Justin Trudeau in many falsehoods, by many failed, disgusting attacks that have absolutely no merit in them at all, showing the desperation of the Canadian state, trying to, of course, control the narrative by speaking utter nonsense. And the more politicians keep speaking utter nonsense and demanding and crying for more power, for more liberty to be taken away, for more of your life to be disrupted by their delusions of grandeur, the more, of course, they lose the general public. And this is why they try to censor individuals like Joe Rogan who speak out against them. We need more voices, more than ever. Don't ever be afraid to speak the truth inside of yourself. Don't ever be afraid to be yourself, because when you do, evil always wins and triumphs when good people are silenced. That's my perspective. If you think I'm wrong in any way, shape, or form, let me know why in the comment section below. I always appreciate constructive criticism. I always appreciate people's attempts to hold us accountable, because we do our best to be. If we weren't, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have your trust. We wouldn't have your participation in this larger independent media experiment that we're all participating in. And because you guys are here, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org. One more video coming your way, LukeUncensored.com.